April 22nd, Saint Soter and Caius, popes and martyrs. Saint Soter was martyred under Marcus Aurelius in 174, and Saint Caius was put to death in 296. All the angels and saints, please pray for us. My husband had gone to the seminary, and this was during a retreat at the end of his OCIA right before he got baptized this last Easter. And I remember I was a bit jealous because it looked so beautiful what he got to see. And my wish pretty much came true. There was a sacred music study day that was happening at the seminary that was hosted by the Catholic Institute of Sacred Music. And I was like, I want to go. And my husband said, okay. And I was like, I really was shocked because it was going to be a full day from 7:30 until 4 p.m. And I would be away from the kids and he would have to take care of them the whole day. And I was just like, there's no way that I could go through with this. But he said yes. And I went and it was amazing. I kind of been learning Gregorian chant on my own through the Little Office of the Blessed Virgin Mary. I started learning it through Veronica Brandt's Little Office of the Blessed Virgin Mary chant class. So that's where I started, and this was around 2019. Veronica does a great job at teaching you the basics of kind of reading and singing Gregorian chant, and also the gestures and the postures and how to pray the little office. So that was an excellent start for my journey with Gregorian chant. I have actually been praying the little office and singing it for almost 6 or 7 years now. And ever since my spiritual director made it a requirement for my Sabbatine privilege when I enrolled in the Brown Scapular, that was when I started doing it daily. And if you haven't prayed, or if you haven't prayed the little office of the Blessed Virgin Mary, the hours can go from around 5 minutes to maybe 30 to 45 minutes. So my spiritual director wanted me to pray Lauds, Vespers, and Compline, and he said that that was a good start for me to have a solid prayer life. So that was what he gave me, and I knew that by under authority I needed to keep up with that promise, and I have done a pretty good job so far, but it's definitely not perfect. And as I continued to pray it every day, it took maybe, I guess, through on and off in the beginning, a couple of like 2-3 years to get used to Vespers and Compline, because the Vespers was like the first one that I started learning, and it took a long time. So that took me a couple of years, and then to finally like get used to all the songs and the chants, and then also beginning to start memorizing it. And last year I enrolled into the scapular and I started learning lauds. Originally I had done matins, but mostly I would just like listen to it on the drive to work. And then lauds was just a bigger beast. Lauds takes around like 30 to 45 minutes for me to sing. So it took me a whole year singing it every day to learn it. So that was that. Now I feel like I have a pretty solid proficiency with singing lauds. Vespers takes around 30 minutes to sing, and Compline is around 10 to 15 minutes. So you're looking at around an hour to an hour and a half of chant throughout the whole day to sing those 3 hours in the Little Office of the Blessed Virgin Mary. And that is where the baseline of my Gregorian chant and singing with the hours has been. And as far as baseline, I just remembered this quote from Dr. Jennifer. Her quote was that correct is just a baseline. We as Catholics strive for beauty. And I thought that was extremely beautiful because it is true as a musician, you really continue to repeat and practice and perfect your music and aim for something that is beautiful. I say that coming from experience because I actually played the flute for 20 years. I started playing at 8 years old and then kind of stopped off around 27, 28 years old when I started getting when I started working and getting really busy with work. So the living and living and breathing and just like experiencing that kind of life as a musician for so long really ingrains into your soul that level of discipline where you always you have to be at every performance or practice even early on or on time, always keeping up your practice at least 30 minutes to an hour a day, and then just continuing to strive for progress, not perfection, but always progress, and striving for a level of beauty that we're satisfied and longing for. So I just know that music has left such a deep impression on me, on my life, and honestly on my soul, because it's just such a beautiful experience to be able to perform music. But I remembered after working and tried to play at a local community college band. The the schedule, I could not keep up with it anymore with having a full-time job. It was extremely demanding, and I knew that if I couldn't commit myself completely to meet all those expectations that are part of the music, that the music culture, I knew that I couldn't be a part of it. So I had to leave, unfortunately. So being able to experience something like the Sacred Music Study Day was an amazing way for me to be able to experience Gregorian chant, the church's sacred music, and to also discern where I wanted to continue learning about it. Although I had been praying the little office every day for the past several years, and now that it is a requirement for my brown scapular, I felt like there was more that I wanted to do. I was honestly just trying to be correct with singing it and getting the Latin right, but I wanted it to be more beautiful. I wanted, just intrinsically as a musician, I can hear how it sounds and how I want it to sound, and I can tell the level of beauty whether it's satisfying to me or not. So I wanted to take this opportunity of going to sacred music study to figure out where I wanted to go with my pursuit of learning Gregorian chant. The Sacred Music Study Day is a full day event at the St. Patrick's Seminary in Menlo Park, which is funny because I actually used to work in Palo Alto near Stanford, and it's not that far away, like 5-10 minute drive away from where I used to work. So the day started from 7:30 and ended at 4:15, and we would have refreshments, and they had confessions at the beginning, and I had a confession there. It was wonderful, and I received a penance that I never knew about. So the penance that the priest gave me was to pray the seven Hail Mary prayer, and it's it's kind of like I had never heard of the prayer before. It's kind of like a short version of the Our Lady of Sorrows chaplet. You pray You meditate on one of the seven sorrows of Mary and pray one Hail Mary afterwards. So it's pretty quick, but it is a little bit of a meditative prayer, and it's just very short and sweet to receive that as a penance. So that was wonderful to have confession offered to us before we started the all of the sessions. And after that, we had an opening talk, which was led by Dr. Jenny, and it was so inspiring. And that is where she had the quote that left the greatest impression on me, which is, especially as a musician, her quote that left a great impression on me was that correct is just a baseline. And as Catholics, we strive to make things beautiful. And I thought that was very profound, especially as a musician, because it's true. You can make it sound correct. You can make music sound correct. But what we truly, like a musician, truly aspires for their music to be beautiful, to reach to the depths of beauty and stir emotions into people's hearts. And I thought that was very profound of her to say, because not only do we do that in music, but I also feel like that's something that I carry out into other aspects of my life. I feel like Catholics, we don't just want to do things correct. We want to do everything else in our lives with a level of beauty. And if you think of it, just doing things like the hidden sacrifices of motherhood, we can just do things right. Just go on and feed our children, take care of the family, but we can make things even more beautiful by sanctifying the house, adding more teaching the faith, and just making the lives of our family even more beautiful. So that's one of the things that I got from that lesson that she gave us. And so we had rehearsal for around 3 hours, and we were practicing all of the chants and songs that we were going to sing for the Mass that was going to be celebrated by Archbishop Salvatore Cordileone. So after rehearsal, we had Mass, and then we had lunch, and we would walk back outside outside of the hall where we practiced. And it was interesting because there was like a cemetery on the left side as we were going to the dining hall. And I just remember that the people I sat with, I felt like it was divine providence that I was able to sit with them, and that they all were invited to our table, because we were sitting, my friend and I from church, we were sitting outside, and there were just like three women that ended up sitting at our table, and they were sharing all of our stories. It was just so wonderful. I felt truly that God brought all these people to our table so that I could learn and experience through their eyes how wonderful the faith was for them. So, yeah, it was just, I don't know, it just seemed so, um, it was really God doing truly his work. And a lot of the conversations that we had, I really needed to hear that day. So after lunch, we had the two workshops. One was a music reading workshop, and the other was a chant masterclass. And I just remembered that as I was going through the Sacred Music Study Day, I was trying to figure out, oh, where do I want to continue going on with this? Because another thing that Dr. Jenny mentioned was that it's a huge sacrifice for people to be away from their families, to sing in the choir at church, to celebrate Mass. And I kept thinking that I didn't want to be away from my family during Mass. I do agree with her philosophy that being able to sing and sing for Mass is such a beautiful honor. But at the same time, I kept thinking, I was like, I couldn't imagine not being there with my family. So I think that was a moment of realization where I felt like I realized where I needed to be during Mass, and that was alongside my family. And I think this was also a point of growth as well, because having grown up and lived in a world of music and performance growing up, I just I thought I would have that pull and want to be a part of that again, but at the same time, I also felt like I realized where my heart needed to be, and it's not with with the stage anymore, but with the quiet confines of my family. So that was truly what I was looking for when I was at the Sacred Music Study Day. So that was that. But I also do want to learn like learn and make progress and create more beautiful music through the Gregorian chant that I'm learning and that I can sing at home. And I'm thinking I'm taking some time right now to discern whether I want to continue with the Catholic Institute of Sacred Music. They have some summer courses, and I saw an introductory Gregorian chant class that I might be interested in taking. It's just going to be another sacrifice for my family because it will be a whole week for it's like an 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. day every day for just 1 week. But I feel like if I were to take that, I feel like I would have a good solid foundation for what I would need to be fairly proficient in singing Gregorian chant and being able to continue to sing the little office. So aside from that, the other thing that I was looking into is I think there's a Gregorian chant school online, Gregorian Chant Academy. But for that one, it looks like you do get a lifetime membership, but it's like $700. So I'm kind of thinking about that, but I'm realizing, especially having gone through music and understanding the importance of having in-person instruction and also maybe even getting a private instructor. It's I can't imagine fully learning how to properly sing or perform or learn music just by online. And that's where I felt like the limitation was with Veronica Brand's program. I got some good solid foundations. It was a good starting point, but I feel like I'm at the point where I'm hitting a ceiling, and to push past that, you need to go and get real instruction or private instruction, someone who knows it and can also help you through it in person. Because if for music, it's to have like the in-person instruction is so important for your growth. Otherwise, you're just only going to hit a cap and be stuck. So that is where I think my heart is for Gregorian chant and my pursuit for it. I really just want to be able to make beautiful prayers at home, to sing the little office beautifully to all the altars that I have in my house, and for my children to have that as a memory for them for the rest of their lives. I just remember that when I came home to my husband, he told me that he always really appreciated and really enjoyed hearing me sing during the evening when I would be doing my night prayers. He said he always had good memories of hearing me sing my songs. So I hope that will be something that my family can remember me for. So yes, thank you for taking the time with me. I'd love to hear if Gregorian chant has been something that's beautiful in your life, or even if you have been performing in church choirs and felt those same feelings about music, especially since we're doing an even greater good than just performing in just any local band. It's just we're singing with the angels and saints at Mass, and we're singing for the glory of God. So I'd love to hear your experiences, and thank you always for taking the time with me. God bless you. Bye.